Nobody expects a 20-year friendship to end with a drunken confession, especially not me. The steakhouse buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses. David adjusted his tie, watching Nate charm the table like always. Their wives, Laura and Sarah, leaned in as Nate told that same old college story, the one where David nearly burned down their frat house. Everyone laughed on cue. Even after 2 decades, Nate was still the life of every party. Then came the whiskey. By the third round, Nate's smile slipped. He dragged David outside, his breath sour with alcohol and something darker. "I'm sleeping with Laura's sister," he blurted. "Kate's pregnant. She wants to keep it. I can't." His voice cracked. "You're my best friend. Fix this." David's stomach dropped. Kate was sweet, quiet, the kind of person who still blushed when complimented. "Does Laura know?" Nate laughed, sharp and hollow. "You think I'd be alive if she did?" He gripped David's arm. "I need you to talk to Kate. Make her see reason." David shoved him off. "You don't get to ask me for shit." But later, driving home, he caught Sarah's worried glance. "Nate okay?" He looked wrecked. "Just drunk," David lied. As they pulled into the driveway, Emily, their 16-year-old, burst out the front door. "Uncle Nate's here." She threw her arms around him, beaming. "You promised to help me with my college essay, remember?" Nate ruffled her hair. The perfect uncle again. "Wouldn't miss it, kid." David watched them, his best friend's secret rotting in his chest. "Dad?" Emily frowned. "You look like you saw a ghost." He forced a smile. "Just tired." But the truth was worse. He'd seen the monster hiding behind Nate's grin, and now he had to live with it. "I've spent 15 years winning impossible cases. But how do you defend a friend from himself?" David's office smelled like stale coffee and regret. He'd been staring at Kate's number for 3 hours. His finger hovered over the call button when his secretary buzzed in. "Your 215 is here." Kate looked smaller than he remembered. The cheerful art teacher from family barbecues was gone. This version sat stiffly in his client chair, fingers picking at her sweater sleeves. "Nate said you'd help," she whispered. David poured her water. "Tell me everything." The story spilled out in fractured pieces. How it started as comfort after her divorce. How Nate threatened to tell Laura she'd seduced him if she ever spoke up. The positive pregnancy test last month. "He gave me pills," Kate said, pushing a prescription bottle across the desk. "Said they'd fix everything." David's blood ran cold. He recognized the label. Nate's hospital issued them. "Did you take them?" She shook her head. "I can't. Not this time." The door burst open. Nate stood there, white-faced. "What the hell, David?" Kate flinched so hard her chair screeched. David stood slowly. "We're having a legal consultation. You're interrupting." Nate's laugh was all teeth. "Right, and I'm the fucking problem here." He grabbed Kate's arm. "We're leaving." David blocked the door. "She stays." For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Then Nate leaned in close. "Remember who your real family is," he hissed before storming out. Kate collapsed into sobs. "He'll ruin me." David watched Nate's car peel out of the parking lot. He'd never seen his friend look at anyone like that, like they were nothing. The prescription bottle weighed heavy in his pocket. He knew what he had to do next. He just didn't know if he could live with it. They buried an empty casket. The real tragedy was what we put inside it. Rain slapped against the black umbrellas as David watched Laura drop a single white rose into the grave. Kate's grave, or what should have been Kate's. The coroner still hadn't released the body. Sarah squeezed his hand too tight. "You need to say something to Laura." David's tongue felt like sandpaper. "What do you say to a woman who just lost her sister? Sorry your husband drove her to overdose" didn't exactly roll off the tongue. The wake at Laura's house smelled like lilies and bourbon. David found Nate in the kitchen, pouring himself a generous drink. No grief in those steady surgeon's hands, just cold precision. "You look like hell," Nate said without turning around. "You look like you don't give a damn." Nate's glass paused halfway to his lips. "Careful, counselor." A noise made them both turn. Emily stood in the doorway, Nate's old varsity jacket drowning her frame. Her eyes darted between them. "Mom's looking for you," she said to David. When she left, Nate smirked. "She's been staying with us since your little stunt. Smart kid. Knows which parent to trust." David's fist connected with Nate's jaw. Before he realized he'd moved, the glass shattered against the tile. Silence. Then Laura's voice from the doorway. "Get out." She wasn't talking to Nate. In the driveway, David found Kate's journal in his coat pocket. He hadn't remembered taking it from his office. The last entry was dated the night she died. Nate said he'd make it look like an accident, but accidents don't leave fingerprints. The pages shook in his hands. This wasn't grief. This was a confession. They say the truth will set you free. What they don't tell you, it burns everything else to the ground first. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and bad decisions. Detective Ruiz flipped through Kate's journal like it was a takeout menu. "You waited 3 days to bring this in?" David's shirt stuck to his back. "I needed to be sure." Ruiz snorted. "Sure about what? That your fancy doctor friend killed his mistress?" He tossed the journal down. No body, no crime scene, just some hysterical scribbles. "You know what this is worth?" The interrogation room door flew open. Nate stood there in his white coat, stethoscope still around his neck. Perfect timing. Always perfect timing. "Sorry I'm late," Nate said, all calm professionalism. "Had an emergency C-section." He nodded at the journal. "That the so-called evidence?" Ruiz shifted uncomfortably. "Dr. Carter, you shouldn't be." "I want to see what my best friend thinks. Proves I'm a killer." Nate picked up the journal, flipped a page, and actually laughed. "Kate wrote this when she was 16. Look at the date." David's stomach dropped. He hadn't checked. Nate's smile was all pity. "Grief makes people desperate, detective. My poor wife. She's not thinking clearly." He patted David's shoulder. "And neither is my friend here." As Nate walked out, Ruiz pushed the journal back. "Go home, counselor, before you ruin what's left of your life." David sat in his car for an hour, staring at the hospital across the street, at Nate's kingdom. Then he dialed a number he hadn't called in years. His old law partner answered on the second ring. "Jesus, David, you really know how to pick a fight." David watched an ambulance pull in. "I need you to dig up everything on Nate Carter. Medical board complaints, patient deaths, everything." A pause. "This gonna be one of those career-ending favors?" David thought of Kate's empty grave, of Emily wearing Nate's jacket. "Yeah," he said, "it is. Funny thing about monsters, they bleed just like the rest of us." The hospital parking lot was empty at 3 a.m. David's hands didn't shake as he scrolled through the files his old partner had smuggled out. 3 patient deaths under Nate's care. All women. All suspicious circumstances. All buried quietly. He didn't hear the footsteps until it was too late. "You always were terrible at sneaking around," Nate said. The scalpel in his hand caught the moonlight. "Going to blackmail me now? Really?" David held up his phone. "Already emailed everything to the medical board and Ruiz, though he won't care until the press gets it tomorrow." Nate's smile faltered. "You'd really destroy me? After everything?" "I'm not the one who started this." David took a step forward. "Where's Emily?" Nate laughed. "Safe. Unlike you." The scalpel flashed. David barely dodged. They crashed into Nate's Mercedes, the alarm wailing into the night. Then a gunshot. Nate staggered back, blood blooming on his white coat. Laura stood 10 feet away, her hand steady around Sarah's revolver. "You killed my sister," she said, voice eerily calm. The sirens started in the distance. Nate collapsed against the car, laughing through the pain. "Look at us. The perfect fucking American family." David reached for him as the cops pulled up. Nate grabbed his wrist, bloody fingers leaving marks. "She'll never forgive you," he whispered. "None of them will." 3 months later, David sat alone in the courtroom gallery as they sentenced Laura to 15 years. Emily hadn't spoken to him since that night. Sarah had filed for divorce. The bailiff handed him a note as he left. A single line in Nate's handwriting. "Told you so." Outside, reporters swarmed. David straightened his tie and walked right past them. Some stories don't get happy endings. Just endings.